The radio keeps telling us to barricade ourselves in our homes, but nothing has happened in 2 decades. I live in what's called the St. John Valley up in northern Aroostook County, Maine. It's a quiet place, surrounded by dense forests and open fields, hugging the Canadian border. The textbook picture of rural New England tranquility. The kind of place where the biggest news might be a truck careening into a moose or who won whatever award at the local fair. But since the very early 2000s, something strange has been happening here that no one can explain, and it's left an indelible mark on the fabric of our community. It all started back in February of 2002 with a broadcast that sent the entire valley into a state of panic. An emergency alert system, EAS, was triggered. A message that terrified everyone who heard it. This is the emergency alert system. The following message is transmitted at the request of local authorities in Aroostook County, Maine. Residents of Limestone, Caribou, Fort Fairfield, Van Buren, and surrounding areas are advised to remain indoors immediately. At approximately 11:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on February 3rd, an emergency situation has been reported. Secure all doors and windows. Reports indicate that both animals and humans are exhibiting violent behavior. Avoid any contact with affected individuals or animals. Seal windows and doors to prevent exposure to the outside air, as there may be an airborne chemical or biological threat. If possible, move to a safe room or basement. Ensure that all household members are accounted for and remain calm. Do not leave your home until an all-clear signal is issued. Stay tuned to this station for further updates and instructions from local authorities. This message will repeat. The broadcast was chilling, and the aftermath was pure chaos. People genuinely believed that they were in imminent danger. Families barricaded themselves in their homes, sealed their windows, and armed themselves against an unseen enemy. In the aftermath, county news stations covered the story extensively, interviewing residents and experts alike. Despite the official explanation that followed the next morning, many people remained skeptical. I was just a kid back then, around 10 years old, but I remember the night clearly. My parents had just put my young sister, Lily, to bed when the EAS tone blared through our house from our TV in the living room. A typically common occurrence many Mainers up here experience due to our harsh winters. Upon its end, my parents gave each other a look of concern and then stared blankly back at whatever was originally playing on the TV. They muttered some words I quite frankly don't recall, but soon thereafter my father quickly sprang into action. He told my mom to gather anything we might need for the night while he started fortifying the house. I watched as he moved our heavy wooden dining table against the front door and used scrap wood and sheets to block the windows. In all the commotion and noise, Lily found her way back downstairs asking for some juice. My mom rushed around grabbing blankets, flashlights, and whatever non-perishable food she could find. She kept telling us not to worry and that they were just preparing for a bad storm, but the shakiness in her voice betrayed her words. Lily, who was only 6 at the time, clung to me, her wide eyes filled with confusion and worry as I tried to comfort her, though I was just as scared. I remember my dad taping plastic sheets over the windows, using duct tape to seal the edges tightly. He assured us kids there was nothing to worry about, and all this was a just in case. My mom led us to the basement, where she had set up a makeshift shelter. The basement was dark and musty, filled with old boxes and forgotten belongings. It wasn't the most comforting place, but it felt safer than the open rooms upstairs. We huddled together on an old couch wrapped in blankets. My dad kept his rifle close by, a precaution he hoped he wouldn't need. We listened to the radio for updates, the eerie silence punctuated only by the occasional creak of the house settling. Every noise outside made them jump, further fueling our imaginations to run wild with thoughts of what might be happening. As the hours passed with no further information, we began to relax slightly, though none of us dared to sleep until my parents eventually took turns keeping watch, their faces etched with worry. Lily eventually drifted off, her head resting on my lap. I sat there stroking her hair and trying to make sense of the situation. The fear in my parents' eyes was something I'd never forget. They were our protectors, and seeing them so vulnerable was unsettling. The all clear broadcast finally came in the early hours of the morning, but it didn't bring much comfort. The authorities claimed the initial broadcast had been a mistake, a technical error. They assured us there was no danger, but the damage was already done. The trust in our community's safety was shattered, and a sense of unease lingered long after. Nothing happens up here. In the days that followed, the valley buzzed with conversations about the incident. Everyone had their own theories, from government conspiracies to supernatural explanations. Despite the official explanation, if one can even call it that, many people remained skeptical. The night became a part of our community's history, a bizarre event that no one could fully explain. As I grew older, the broadcasts continued to air sporadically. Each time it sent a ripple of anxiety through the area, though the initial panic had dulled to a resigned acceptance. By the time I reached high school, the alert had become a sort of local legend. I became obsessed with the idea of hearing it for myself now that I was older. Hadn't caught it since that night long ago. But finally, one night during a high school bonfire with a small group of friends, I got to. The fire crackled, and the chatter of my peers filled the air, eventually drowned out by the ominous tones of the EAS. I ran to the truck radio, and there it was. The atmosphere at the party shifted instantly. Conversations stopped, and a hush fell over the group as we listened in stunned silence. The broadcast ended, and we all looked at each other, a mix of fear and excitement in our eyes. It felt surreal, like witnessing a piece of history that had come to life right before us. Over the years, these mysterious broadcasts have continued to air once or twice a year, always at exactly 11:30 p.m. The residents of Aroostook County eventually grew indifferent. The initial panic subsided and the broadcast faded into local legend, something to be talked about at late-night gatherings and around campfires. People began to treat it like a strange, unexplainable quirk of sorts. A story to tell newcomers and a curiosity for visitors to the area. A funny prank of sorts if you happen to tell a newcomer just before one happens to air. But not for me. The mystery of these broadcasts gnawed at me, and it's why I ended up here at WQHR as a board operator. I hoped working here at the local radio station might help me uncover some truth. I pretty much had no choice but to listen to the radio while I worked 10 hours a day. Audio engineering had been a hobby of mine and something I've hoped to get into for some time now, at least since I graduated. But, I also figured it may be a good place to begin my investigation. Eventually, while on shift, I ended up catching the second of two alerts that occurred that night. It was similar to the first, but with just enough new information to further reignite my obsession. I don't remember if I mentioned there were multiple, but this one I had never heard, even back when I was a scared little boy in my parents' basement. I guess I must have dozed off, though I have, of course, heard about it in passing. But anyways, here's the second transcript. Hey, Sky here. Sorry, we're running out of time on this video, so part 2 will be up next.